Okay, I think we'll get going. Folks, we are here to talk about build observability and gaining deeper insights into your builds. Hi, I'm Duncan. I'm here as head of product marketing here at Incredibuild. I'm going to talk a little bit about Incredibuild and how it works for those who haven't experienced it before or haven't used the product yet. Gil Nuttall is here. He's our product director at Incredibuild, who's going to talk and show off some of the observability and dashboarding features so you can see how Incredibuild lets you see inside your builds, see inside your organization's builds, share that, and get better at understanding what's happening and where. Like I said, I'll talk a little bit about what's Incredibuild, why build observability, and then we'll do a demo, and then we'll have some questions. It shouldn't take too long. For those who haven't used Incredibuild, those joining us the first time, here's a little reminder of what we do. We speed up software builds. Specifically, we speed up C++, C shader compilations, simulations like financial modeling, game engine builds, those kinds of compilations. We speed those up. We do it in three ways. The first is build acceleration. We use your machines, your spare laptops, your workstations, your servers, even your cloud instances, and we turn those into a build farm on the fly. I'll talk about how that works. Second, and this is what we're going to talk about mostly today, is build observability. We give you unparalleled visibility into what's happening throughout your builds, throughout your organization, real time and historically. So you can see what process broke and understand what to do to fix it. And then lastly, we give you control and management and APIs. We'll talk a little bit about that today too, so that you can report easier and help others understand what's happening in your organization. But why? We're here really to talk about time. At the end of the day, it's about build time. It's about your time. It's about freeing up time and velocity in your workflows. Time that can mean a lot of things, not the least of which is getting great products to market faster. So let's take that time savings and give it a number. Think about 10 hours. What would you do with 10 hours back in your week? For me, I'd spend more time with my kid. As a team, though, we'd have more time to get creative and solve problems together and collaborate. For our dev team, they could iterate more and QA faster. For a lot of our customers, it means more time to create, more time to experiment, more time to focus on what matters for them. Making that 10 hours real for a second, that's just one developer who waits 1 hour for a build just twice a day. So that's 10 hours a week right there. That's an entire week's worth of hours back in every month, and that's just one developer. Let's take a short hop further. Pretty common scenario for us is that some of our smaller customers have a team like this. So around 10 folks building 2 to 3 times a day. So that's 150 hours. That's 3.5 work weeks recovered every week. 14 work weeks a month. That's like getting over a quarter's worth of work hours back in your day. And that's just a small team. So that's a super conservative group just doing simple builds, just like that one developer was. So this is a conservative estimate. Some folks are getting 10x build speeds with our products. How? How does it work? So if you haven't used it yet, the core of what we do is distribution. So our distribution technology works by parallelizing your build tasks across your network resources. So we build a grid of your spare processing power. We take the cores of your laptops, workstations, servers, cloud instances, whatever you have, and we use those resources when they're idle. So we break build tasks into parts and then distribute them across what we call the grid, turning whatever you have into this massive build farm on the fly. It starts with something we call the helper. So you install helper instances on those machines who you want to help your builds. And then you have your initiator machine, which will fire up the build and send those tasks out to the helpers dynamically. The other half of that is caching. Caching, pretty much everybody understands what caching is. You're only going to build what changed. So incremental builds shared across your organization so that when those builds get distributed, That's less bandwidth, less assets to be rebuilt. You're only building what changed. And so you're only pushing assets up the pipeline that need to be pushed up there. So significantly less build times again. And with build cache enabled, again, you can see sometimes 9, 10x faster builds, not just with our parallel processing, but with our caching included. And if you've ever used Incredibuild, you know that you don't need to change anything. It's not a new build system. It's not a new scripting language. You don't have to change the way you work. It's your processes, it's your tools, it's your tool chain. It's the way you work. It's simply in front of you, those builds, accelerating that compilation time. Most teams get this set up in about a sprint or less, and you can start saving build times right away without taking your team down. So we're here to talk about observability today. One of the great ways we speed things up is actually helping you understand what's happening. Build processes are tough, and if something breaks, every build is different. And if something breaks, you have to spend a lot of time slogging through the logs. In the background there, you can see a typical log, line by line, understanding what happened. Our build monitor, which is in the middle there, traditionally lets you see what's happening in real time. And you can really analyze which build tasks are happening on which helper, which I just showed you in the grid, and see which ones might give you trouble in real time. But Gil's going to talk today a little bit more about our observability tool suite and our dashboarding, which gives you a view for your whole organization across all of your builds and historically, so that you can see not just who broke the build, but where you might have had trouble spikes and where you might need to troubleshoot in the future. So all of this leads to faster builds. How? Faster debugging, faster error analysis, less bottlenecks, the ability to understand who and what broke the build. All of that speeds you up. In addition to accelerating your build times, this is what the observability tool suites do. The good news is this is available to anybody who's using the tool. So you can see these builds as you're building. If you're a platform engineer or somebody in DevOps, you can see what the organization is doing, and anyone can do that. And we expose this stuff via APIs to things like Grafana, Prometheus, Datadog, so that your build systems and build observability systems that you already have can also use this. And you can put dashboard components in to help understand what's happening broadly. So if you're building one pane of glass yourself, you can actually expose these data units via APIs to your team on the fly. I could talk about this all day, but I actually want to show you. Gil's here to show us how this works. He's going to walk us through the dashboarding and some of the things that you can do now with our new dashboards that you couldn't do before. So if you've used Incredibuild before, thanks for your patience, as I told you exactly what this already does for you. And now you get to see what we can do in the future. So Gil, I'll turn this over to you.
Thank you, Duncan. And thank you guys for joining us. Incredibuild, whenever Incredibuild participates in your build and accelerates your build, we collect information about the builds that we run. Statistical information and deep level details about how the builds behave. We store that information inside as part of Incredibuild database. And the dashboard is the first place that you can go to gain some intuitive, quick insights into how your builds behave and how you can accelerate them. Okay. You can select the time frame that you're interested in. In our case, I chose a week, 1 week. You can immediately see that you have how many builds you ran. In this case, 1,400 builds ran during that week. You can see that about 25% of those were not accelerated using caching. So that's something that you may want to investigate. Although the average build duration for all of the builds together was 12 minutes, you can immediately see that there's a difference between the builds that use cache and didn't use cache. The ones that used the cache were much faster. They took 8 minutes. The ones that didn't use cache, they were 13 minutes. Okay, so if 13 minutes is above your SLA, this is a clear way of maybe you want to adopt build caching to the builds that do not, and accelerate them further. You can see how builds failed during the week, day by day, how many builds succeed, how many of them fail, how many of them have warnings during that time. Maybe you can identify cases when your developers push buggy code and identify when you want to keep a close look at what's going on and improve your builds that way. Now, think about how you would do that without Incredibuild. You'd probably look for maybe your CI environment to take a look at how those CI jobs succeed or fail and how long they take. That's pretty good starting point, but it doesn't cover all of your builds. What about the builds that your developers run with before CI? And the CI jobs they might fail, they might take longer than just the build itself as part of the CI job. So if you want to target just to understand how your builds behave, how is your code consistency working, you'd probably need to insert some hooks into your CI job so that you collect information on your own, place that in a database, and that's this sort of analysis, which sounds tedious. Another thing that the build dashboard contains is the heat map. Okay, that provides you with information about how Incredibuild builds behave during the entire week, during specific hours of the week. Okay, so if you have a bottleneck where you have a lot of builds happening towards 4 p.m. day on work days, maybe this is something that you can change, or maybe you want to allocate more resources so that Incredibuild can accelerate your builds further. Okay. Lastly, the dashboard includes a trend graph of the build's duration. This is a very easy way, and you can clearly see that something changed on the 22nd. Up until the 21st, your builds took close to 10 minutes. And suddenly on the 22nd, something happened and they started becoming more than 20 minutes. Sorry. So something happened on the 22nd. Maybe it was a code change. Maybe it was a build modification, some new things that the build does that make it longer. Maybe it's an environmental problem. We want to take a deeper look at what happened on the 22nd. And to do that, we go to the build list page. Now, the dashboard contains statistical information about a lot of builds. The build list page contains just the list of builds that ran in the specific period. We're looking at the 22nd. You can see 1,200 builds running on the 22nd, 1,000 of which succeeded. What happened to the other 200? Maybe they failed. Maybe somebody killed them midway. You can filter based on the status to see how all the builds that failed and analyze them and see if you can find a common ground why a lot of builds failed on the 22nd, started failing on the 22nd. In our case, you could see one of the builds that actually failed here. It's an Unreal Engine build. You can see who ran the build, where it ran from, and you can drill down to get more information. I'll show that in later. Okay. We went to focus on the 22nd because something changed from the build duration. So I would sort by duration and take a look at the top ones, the builds that take the longest on the 22nd. The first one here alone, that's a build that takes more than an hour. Whereas average duration for the entire build until then was 12 minutes. This one alone is taking an hour. Clearly something that we want to investigate. We drill down into that to get the build report page. The build reports page contains two tabs. The first one is a summary tab. It provides you with an overview of this specific build. Who ran the build, where it ran from, what is the target that was built, where the source folder that it ran from, and so on, including the Incredibuild configuration for that build. Things like, did it include build cache? Did it include helpers in the cloud? Did it include predictive execution? Predictive execution, by the way, is a feature in Incredibuild that accelerates builds when running in Visual Studio by increasing the concurrency of the build, which allows Incredibuild to use more helpers to accelerate the builds. The performance tab shows you much more deeper information going from the build level to the task level. Now, a task in our lingo is anything that the build runs, the build system runs. It could be a compilation, it could be a link operation, it could be moving files around. Anything that your build system runs is a task. You can see this specific build had 42,000 tasks. That's pretty big build. 1/3 of these tasks actually were taken care of by build cache. Okay, build cache had 1/3 of those were you had a cache hits, which is excellent. I mean, the fastest way of doing something is not doing it at all. Build cache saved the build system from actually running 1/3 of the compilations by providing information that was already available in the cache from previous builds. Okay. Another thing that you can see here is that 10% of the tasks were executed remotely. Let me interject and explain a little bit. Some of the system where the machine where the build is running, we call that an initiator because that's initiated the build. Tasks that are executed on the initiator are executed locally. Tasks that Incredibuild is able to take and execute on a remote system, a helper, executed remotely. That's one of the key aspects of Incredibuild distribution. We are able to take tasks from your build and run them on helper machines. Those are help machines that are part of the Incredibuild grid, and they contribute CPU and memory to accelerate your builds. Now, 10% of the tasks executed remotely on a helper machine. You might wonder why it's only 10%. Maybe you can take a look and understand why, if you can allocate more resources or see what kind of tasks were executed locally to see if you can allow Incredibuild to run them remotely. Another aspect is the build cache behavior. In this case, you can see that out of all the operations, all of the tasks that build cache is able to take care of, it supports things like compilation and so, it actually was able to get a very nice hit rate of almost 90%. That's pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't expect 100% cache hits if your system is consistently showing 100% cache hits. That means your developers aren't changing the code, so you may want to take a look at that. So 90% cache hit ratio sounds like a very good number. And lastly, you can also see the behavior of Incredibuild distribution. We said that 10% of the tasks were executed remotely on helpers. But in this case, you could see that these 10% of the tasks actually contributed 25% of the CPU that was involved in the build entirely. Another thing that you can see here is that almost 6% of the time of the build duration, the Incredibuild was looking for more helpers, but they weren't available. So if you had more helpers available for the build, if you had more resources, you probably could accelerate this build further. Lastly, out of the 42,000 tasks that were part of this build, we show here a number of tasks, the tasks that took the longest. These are probably the tasks that you want to focus on if you want to accelerate your build at the task level. Just the first one on the list is taking 35 minutes. So up until now, compared to the 12 minutes the entire build used to take, now we have just a single task that is taking 35 minutes. Clearly something changed. Maybe it's a new task altogether. Maybe the build changed. There's something new here that it started doing on the 22nd that is very, very long. Maybe an environmental change made this task start taking longer. Maybe it's a code change. that completely changed the way the build system runs, and now this specific compilation is taking so long. Okay. From this point, you'd probably go to your build monitor to take a deeper look at this build, analyze it further, see the build output, and then find out what you can accelerate for this specific build and the ones that are similar to this one. Sorry.
That's great, Gil. I've actually
So
seen a
in
customer.
summary,
Go ahead, please.
I just wanted to say that in summary, we take all of the information that we collect from all of your builds, accelerated through Incredibuild, and we provide you with information at the statistical level, at the build level, and sub-build at the task level to allow you to gain control of the way your builds behave.
Fantastic. One of the exciting things I saw a customer do, they weren't using our build caching technology or shared caching at all. And they were able to take a look at the difference. Once they turned it on, they could quickly see and justify the effort, which wasn't much, to use the caching and why it was helping. And they could actually see the difference it made in their builds over average and over time. So again, the build monitor is real time. That's not what we just showed. This is the historical data that helps you share and understand and troubleshoot better. Thanks for this demo. There are, the chat is open, guys, if you want to add some questions. I've already seen some come in here, but anyone, we're monitoring the chat on the fly here. So if there are any questions, we're happy to answer them. The first one is really great. When can I start using this? So for folks who already have Incredibuild, this is relatively new. Gil, what's the availability of this these features?
Everything we showed is already available. Download Incredibuild, try it out, the latest version. You can try it out and get the looks of it immediately.
Got it. So if you don't have it today, you may be running a previous version of Incredibuild. You can go ahead and update and get access to that dashboard. And is it every user who has access to the dashboard?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is available to all Incredibuild customers.
Fantastic. Great. Question coming in here. Oh, what is next? Oh, great. So they're excited about this. So they're curious about the roadmap. There's always somebody who asks about the roadmap. What's next for our observability tool suite?
So there's a number of things. The one that we hear most from our customers, mainly larger customers who use Incredibuild to accelerate multiple types of projects. And then a single Incredibuild grid has multiple types of builds. Some of them take longer and they behave differently. And they want to take a look at, analyze each sort of project separately. So we're going to add automatic tagging, where we can apply a tag to each specific build, allowing you to analyze each project separately on its own, separate from other projects that behave differently, and allow you to have better insights into how each specific project behaves.
That's fantastic. That's great. And time scale for that roughly, is that next quarter after?
First half of 25.
Yes. Okay, great. Integrations. Yeah, so I can answer some of this one. We do integrate directly with Grafana and Prometheus, Datadog, but it's also exposed via API. So you could write hooks for this in any system you've got. If you've got your own system, if you are doing your own thing.
You can go to Incredible documentation, search for API, and find out how.
Yeah, absolutely. That is pretty much it for our presentation. Any other questions in the room? I know it's super early for the West Coast guys, so. All right, team. We're going to do a series on these as far as using the observability tools. Like I said, Build Monitor is probably next. We'll talk more about the tagging and those features that we talked about in the roadmap as those come out soon. So stay tuned. More on using Incredibuild to help go faster in ways that aren't acceleration, in ways that are about troubleshooting and understanding and sharing. More on that soon. Thanks, Gil. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Duncan. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.